Hello, my Stampin' friends. Today I want to share a box that I thought was a really nice box to have in your crafting repertoire because it's really easy. It just uses designer series paper with just a couple score lines, and you can make them really fast if you're doing, it's a nice size. You could do these for a bridal shower, baby shower, teacher appreciation, people, co-workers. You can make a whole bunch of these and in no time. So it's a really simple box. Stampin' Up! Actually shared this box template at an event that they put on for demonstrators, and it's really nice when they do that. I love when Stampin' Up! Puts on the events because then I can sit back and be the attendee for a change, and it's really a fun time. So they showed us this along with some sneak peeks of some new products. So this is paper you haven't seen before, and it's gorgeous, and a stamp set that you haven't seen before, unless you watched my video from a week or so ago, because I showed some other sneak peek that we did with it. But it's this Big Hugs for a Good Friend, which is really cute. And I'm going to show you this box because it is pretty, and I love this ribbon, and I love this glimmer paper. I love a lot of things going on here, but especially this paper and ribbon. And we're going to make it in a different paper and ribbon because I want you to see that you can make it in a whole variety of colors and styles for any occasion. But I did want to show you what they came up with because it was lovely. What you can put in here, it's a nice size. Actually, I used this box at Stamp Camp last weekend, and we filled it with the round chocolates. Oh, here, I think I've got some in here. Yes, the Lindor chocolates, and it fits 3, but I've eaten one. I was gonna blame it on my kids, but I'm like, you know what? I ate it. I'm not gonna blame it on the kids. I ate one. So it fits 3, and that's one of the things that can fit in here, but it's actually a really nice size. You can imagine that you can fit lots of stuff in here. It doesn't even have to be candy. You know, you can put money. I did put a gift card in one just to see, and it does fit. It's just that this is a belly band style. I'm gonna show you how to do that. Whoops, this way. And I put a gift card in there. And here you can see that this one I actually glued the size shut, but you don't even have to. You can leave it unglued and even have less expense and time if you just do it that way. So it's really an easy box, and I'm going to show it to you. Here it is with the sides glued, and then it just closes like that. And you can use a ribbon to keep it tied, so you need something to keep it tied closed. So in this case, a ribbon worked perfectly, and that's what we did at the Stampin' Up! Event. And then in this case, I used a belly band. So I'm going to show you how to do both of those, and they're so simple. You're going to love this box. Okay, so the first thing you need is designer series paper. I'm going to use this one. I love this paper. I'm so glad it stuck around. It's actually from the previous catalog, and it uses colors from the previous catalog. You might recognize the wild wheat and some boho blue and moody mauve in this paper. Here it is again here. But I'm glad that they kept it around because we're doing a lot more scrapbooking lately, so they were keeping the 12 by 12 papers around a little longer, and I'm happy about that because this paper I really like. So if you're going to do a belly band, a fun way to do that, you need an 11 by 4 inch piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that 1 inch off the end when it's full like this. That way I've got this long strip that I'm going to use as my belly band. It's a little too long, but that's okay. We'll cut it down. And then you need that 4. So that's the 11, and here's the 4. So if you were making this for a shower or some event, you could get 3 of these, 1, 2, 3, from one sheet. You couldn't get 3 belly bands though, so you'd have to choose a different paper for a belly band or use the ribbon method. Okay, so you could get 3 of these, which is really nice. I'm going to put that aside. So that's this cutting, that's it. And then we need to do some scoring. So you're going to take the paper and put it at the 1 inch mark and score 1 inch on the long sides. Like so. And I need 1 inch on this side as well. So I'm lining that up with my 1 inch mark. Okay, so now we're going to move it, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to score it at 2 and 3. So 2 and 3. And then we're gonna, you know what, I should have had the, I wanted you to have this. So let's see, I did the 2 and the 3. All right, so that was 2 and 3, I scored. And then we need to move it up and do 7 and 8. And for some reason, I feel like that's wrong. Let me double check. I made these, like I said last week, for Stamp Camp. Nope, I was right, 7 and 8. Okay, so 7 and 8. So 2, 3, 7, 8. And that is your scoring. So that was really simple. You could do these really fast. When I was cutting for Stamp Camp, I always do the scoring ahead of time just because I don't want to have to pass that big scoring tool, that big cutter around the table. But then everybody has to do this part on their own. And here we are just cutting the flaps. So you're going to cut on that score line. Now you can do, just to make it easier, if you want to just cut along the flap just like this, that's fine. I like to do these little tiny like wedges. I feel like that helps when you're closing the box and you don't have any little points sticking out. It kind of keeps the edges cleaner for me. So I kind of got used to doing that. This particular box is so forgiving that you could just do that straight cut instead of this little wedge, but I gotta say I like the little wedge. So we're going in and we're just snipping those little tabs. Okay, so that's like the hardest part. See how easy this box is? Okay, so now you've got your box and all of its little edges, and you're just going to crease on all of those score lines and all those tabs. Oops. Okay, like this. So now you can decide if you want to glue those flaps down or leave them. So I'm going to glue them down just because I think it's going to make life a little bit easier. The nice thing about not gluing them down is if you're going to do these for an event, you can keep them flat until you need them and they won't get crushed, you know, until you're ready to fill. All right, so I've got my, you're only going to put adhesive on the little tabs, and you could use liquid glue if you like. Okay, that is it. Our box is done. Isn't that amazing? So then you're just closing in these little tabs, this little part here. Now, how you decorate it is up to you. I want to show you a fun little decoration. So I've got this belly band, and what I like to do with a belly band is I actually like to, and you don't glue these down because you want to be able to open and fill. I have heard people say they're going to glue one side down so they can fill from there, but I don't think that's necessary. I would just leave it completely open. And then we're going to go ahead and wrap that belly band. So for the belly band, this paper happens to be perfect because it's a nice coordinating paper on the back. Sometimes designer series paper, the back side is not so great. This one that I did earlier worked perfectly too, because look at that cute little gingham on the inside. And then I just used that gingham as the belly band. So I'll show you that one again. Now, how I like to do belly bands is a little different. Some people score them and I don't, because I feel like, you know, when you do these, you might get that score and just sometimes there's a little, you're just the slightest bit off, a little 16th, and the score doesn't line up anyway. So here's how I do it. I start at the back in the middle, or slightly to the middle, and then I just crease with my thumb and index finger, and just go around once the box is already made. That way any little off, 1/16 of an inch off or whatever it is, these belly bands are custom for this box. So I'm just gonna go around until I get to the back, and I'm pinching with my thumb and my index finger instead of actually scoring with the scoring blade. And then I'm gonna cut. And that is how I'm gonna do this box. Oops. Get a little leverage here. Okay, so So then I've got a belly band. Isn't that cute? Okay, so now I want to do a little something else because I want to dress it up. So you can dress these things up so many different ways, and I wanted to show you, I love this flower. I don't know what it is. If you know, let me know. It's got these little tufts at the top in white, and it's just a really pretty flower. And I was wishing I had a die for that, and then I realized, wait a minute, I think I do. And so I went through the dies, and I love to look through my dies, and I found that flower. Isn't that perfect? So this one is what I'm going to use, and this is called Gallery Beautiful Motifs. And this one doesn't really have, it is sold with a sentiment stamp, and that means there's no images. It doesn't cut out any images. It's just accents and beautifulness. so you've got these really pretty accents, and I cut out this one and this one. So I'm going to use that when I cut out the kind of fern in Mossy Meadow, and then I cut out that little, I don't know what it is, you tell me. Now you can decide that if this is too big, you can actually trim it down and like pretend that it only came to, you can kind of, let's show you what I mean. I'm going to trim it down and pretend that it only goes to here. And I'm just going to cut off this other little flower or leaf. There. So now it's shorter. And I can save this, and that's always a fun thing to tuck. You can tuck it behind. You know, you've got extra greenery, so kind of save that. But then this one is a little bit smaller. It doesn't quite hang off so much. Same with this one. You can decide to cut off that bottom bit. And again, you can save this as a sprig. I actually have a little baggie of sprigs. So now I wanted to dress this up a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I did that. Again, I'm putting in more detail on this one, but if you want just something simple here, I just used a sprig, and then I tied the ribbon on top of it. It's been off and on because I keep going in and getting the candy. So that one's been off and on a few times, but I want to make sure that it goes onto the belly band, and then I'm going to put this on top, and I'm going to tie it with some linen thread. But let me show you how to decorate this just a little bit more. I wanted those tufts to be white, so you notice I cut it out in crumb cake. I think that just adds a little something something, and it looks really pretty. You can cut it out in white if you want to. And then I grabbed some Stampin' Blends in crumb cake. So this is crumb cake and this is crumb cake, but it just adds a little more depth of color if I go on top of it. And I'm just kind of darkening in some of these little stems with the crumb cake, just giving it a little rough color and just kind of fast and loose here, just giving it some more something something. And then I grabbed, so since this was Mossy Meadow, I went with Mossy Meadow for my leaves. And you know what, you could just use these kind of markers too. I might as well. I'm just going to grab that and just give it some, you don't have to use alcohol markers. It's such a small little thing, and we're not doing any blending. So grab your alcohol markers. You could use your watercolor pencils. I'm just kind of going in and adding a little bit of green. And then I wanted to get these tufts to be white, so then I grabbed my Craft White ink pad, which is missing. Where is it? There it is. Cut paint on here, but we're just gonna use this because this doesn't dry very fast, and so I wanted to put it on here, kind of give it a little bit of added there. White. Now craft ink, it does not dry fast, so I'm going to hit it with the heat gun real quick. Okay, so I want that to stay down, so I'm going to go ahead and put, oh, I got gooiness on here. I think I'll put a glue dot on top of that to make sure that it sticks. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just put a nice little bow. All right, where's the beginning? There we go. Now you can go all the way around like I did on this one, or you could just tie the bow across. I'm gonna do a little tiny for you. So I'm going to just make a bow. And I have a million stamps that say for you. And I found, I bet you have a lot of stamps that say, kind of go through your stamps and find one. I wanted this little one. So this is in the butterfly. And so this little tag is actually from the Beautiful Butterflies also. And I'm gonna avoid black, so I'm gonna stamp this in, I think, early espresso. Or I could have went pecan pie maybe. Just a little for you. And you can go ahead and stick that right on there if you want. I think I'm going to, and then put my bow on top. No one's gonna know it's not going through. But that's gonna kind of hold it a little bit more in place and hold everything together. And then I'm gonna stick this down. So this is a beautiful little box. Again, it'd be really nice for if you know you're a bridal shower or a baby shower, use some fun colors, some bright colors for a kid's party. You can fit lots of candy in there. Those fun size, you can get a decent amount in there if you go with some bright papers, baby color papers, whatever you want. So I'm going to put that right there. And that is another variety. So I've made so many little varieties of this box because it was just so fun. And now that I've made this video, I can eat my candy. I do want to show you this one real quick because it's a fun little stamp. I've got my label punch. And then I just used, okay, now I want to say this paper, like I said, it's retired, and the colors in it, this moody mauve and this wild wheat, are no longer available. But you only see a tiny bit of it in this paper. You've got these little pops of color. Let me show you right here. And I looked at it pretty closely and I thought, you know what I could get away with? Now you couldn't really get away with it on this big piece because it definitely is not Petunia Pop. But if you're just using this tiny little piece, you can get away with Petunia Pop. So even though Moody Mauve is gone, as an accent, Petunia Pop works great. So I'm going to use this Mossy Meadow and do the U. And I'm going to do that first just so I know how much space it takes. And then I'm going to do the 4 in the Petunia Pop. If you wanted to, you could use a little hole punch. And tie around. And you can do something here. I have, see, like the inside doesn't, it's not bad actually. So that is the box again, and this is so fast. Once you've scored and cut, and even the scoring is so easy because it's, you know, 2, 3, 7, 8, and 1 inch on the sides. It's just, you don't even really have to think. So you can go like this, and you can find a ribbon that you have that kind of coordinates. So I was thinking, does Petunia Pop work? Let's see. Might be too bright, but it might be okay. You can go with a white that goes with those flowers, or even a basic beige, or you might have some ribbon laying around from before these colors retired. Something great is to look at the clearance rack. I bet if you look at the clearance rack, you'll find some really fun ribbons or colors that have just recently retired, and you can grab some of those before they're completely gone. I'm going to grab the white. This is a new roll. it around. All right, I have a trick for getting these little ribbon in the holes, and I left it in my classroom. It's these little dental flossers that make life so much easier. I'd love to be able to show you that, and I just realized I left the entire container at my classroom. So I'm gonna do this a different way. And that kind of holds the box closed, so you don't even have to add anything else. But I want this to be a little more fun, so I do want to add this little for you, and we can even add, well, let's see, I'm going to put it on with the linen thread. Okay, I've got my little box. This was the super easy one, and if you don't want to add any die cuts, although you could certainly add these little sprigs that we have left over, couldn't you? So anyway, these are really easy boxes. Remember, it's just 4 by 11 and then scored 1 inch on each side, on the long side, and then 2 and 3 and 7 and 8. It's easier to tie this after the fact, so I'm going to do that. This poor one has gone through the ringer because this was my sample at Stamp Camp. And like I said, my kids keep eating the candy, and well, all right, I said it. My kids did eat some, and then I filled it, but then I can't blame them for all of it because then I ate more. I keep refilling it so I can do the video, and then I keep eating it. All right, so that is my little box. I hope you enjoy. This one's my favorite. I love, love, love that little die, and so do check that out. Again, it's called Beautiful Motifs. Let's see. Beautiful Motifs dies. So pretty. I love this big fern looking die, and I just love this one. If you know the name of that, let me know. Thanks so much for watching. This is a really fun project to have in your craft arsenal. Thanks for watching. Bye.